Season 5 of Angel aired from October 2003 until May 2004, consisting of 22 episodes. This would also be the final season of Angel and the final kind of part of the overall TV BuffyVerse, at least except for the comics. Now, originally, Angel Season 5 wasn't actually supposed to be the final season of Angel. From what I understand, this is what I've read, and this is what I've heard. Angel would always be renewed at the last possible minute. Like, the cast and crew, they would not hear anything for a while about whether Angel was being renewed or not. They would presume it wasn't, so they would sign on for other projects, like other TV shows, other films and the like, only to suddenly be told, oh, by the way, you're getting another season of Angel. So they would have to kind of pass up the shows and movies and the like in order to do the TV show. So Joss Whedon went to the head of the network, Jordan Levin, to kind of talk about an early pickup for season 6. Or the like. He wanted just kind of to provide more security to the cast and crew so that they didn't have to kind of botch their schedules just to be able to do it. However, Levin saw this as an ultimatum, and rather than kind of figure out a new way, he just said, okay then, you're cancelled. So, season 5 would end up being the last season of Angel and the last season of the overall BuffyVerse. This is also the first season following Buffy's end in 2003. This would provide a little bit. They would provide a little shake-up for the members of overall Angel Investigations, because at the end of the previous season, they had been visited and told that they were being offered kind of a new setup, a new location, and the likes in Wolfram and Hart's offices in LA. And Angel was effectively made the CEO of the LA branch of Wolfram and Hart. I mean, considering that you're now set up in the very kind of institution that you've been fighting against, this proves to be a little bit uncomfortable for the team, but they try to make it work. Most of the cast returned, including the likes of David Boreanaz as Angel, J. August Richards as Charles Gunn, Winfred Burkle, played by Amy Acker, Wesley Wyndham-Price, played by Alexis Denisoff, and Lorne, played by Andy Halley. To which they would also end up bringing on board long-time vampire character Harmony Kendall, played once again by Mercedes McNabb. However, the kind of big shake-up of this season, one was that they didn't bring back Cordelia Chase, played by Charisma Carpenter. She does appear in one episode, to which the episode You're Welcome, to which apparently Charisma Carpenter was a bit frosty on that, because they said, don't bring me back, just kill me off. So they brought her back, and then they killed her off. However, her sass that she would normally bring to the team turns out wasn't needed in this case, because they also bring back Spike, played by James Masters, who was killed at the end of Buffy's final season, season 7. Basically, Angel receives a kind of letter through the mail, and inside is an amulet. And once he takes out the amulet, Spike is simply resurrected. First of all as a ghost, and then later on becoming corporeal. Do I feel that bringing back Spike here kind of undoes some of the character development and things that he got at the end of Buffy season 7? A little, but at the same time, he fits back into it like a glove. Like the chemistry he has between James Masters has with David Boreanaz as Spike, they make it work, and he's just a great fun addition to the cast. Now, one character who they did not bring back was Stephanie Romanoff's Lila Morgan. Presumably they felt that they wanted to kind of go in different character directions, try different character dynamics, so instead they bring in a new character named Eve, played by Sarah Thompson, with her being like a liaison to the senior partners within Wolfram and Hart. Basically, keep Angel on a leash, make sure he doesn't go too off the deep end. To which she is paired up with a returning character, Lindsay McDonald, played by Christian Kane, who he does actually provide a fun moment, to which, if I remember at the end of this video, I'll mention it. He does have a fairly funny moment right at the end. However, when things become tricky with him, they also bring in a new liaison from the senior partners, Marcus Hamilton, played by another Whedonverse big star, Adam Baldwin. Now, this was after he played Jane Cobb on Firefly. Firefly aired in 2003, and by the time he's introduced to Angel, it's 2004. So Firefly will have ended by that point. Now, this is not quite so uncommon with Joss Whedon and certain characters. I mean, he had Nathan Fillion in for the final season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as the villain Caleb, and they also, in the previous season of Angel, got in Gina Torres playing Jasmine. So having Adam Baldwin here, it's a nice addition. Also in 2008, 2009, they would bring in Alan Tudyk into the show Dollhouse, to which that's a nice addition as well. And basically he provides kind of like the liaison to the senior partners, but he's also rather sinister, and he does provide a fun battle towards the end of the season. The other characters who Another character they brought back in, who I was a bit surprised to see come back, was Connor, played by Vincent Kartheiser once again. Connor obviously played a big role in the later half of season 3 and a large portion of season 4, but by the end of season 4, when he kind of had his memories wiped, he was placed in a new family, he was going off to college, I kind of felt that seemed like it for Connor, like that was the end of his story arc. But from what they brought him back here, kind of first of all as a character in an episode where his parents bring him in to kind of work out where his supernatural powers come from. But then he does also have a role in the final episode where, essentially in the final episode of the show, Angel tells them that they're going up against an organisation within Wolfram and Hart called the Circle of the Black Thorn. Basically demons and people who are trying to gain power, and he knows that they're going to have to fight off against the Circle of the Black Thorn. So he tells each of the members of his group to basically go off and live their day like it's their last day, which most of them do. Angel goes off and spends some time with his girlfriend, but also tells her to go anywhere in the world, so away from LA, so she'll be safe. Gunn goes off and helps some friends who I think are moving or doing some charity work. Wes and Fred spend some time together. Lorne goes off to sing at a karaoke bar. Spike goes off and does poetry at another bar. And Angel goes off to spend time with his son, to which Connor mentions that he knows that he is Angel's son, but it doesn't really change that much, and he'd rather just leave it at that. Which I do think is a nice thing, but then he does also come back to help in the final fight against Hamilton, which I think is a nice touch. And ultimately, when they manage to defeat Hamilton and kill him, the building starts collapsing. And when Connor says, "What do we do now?" Angel says, "You go home." But this risk going down. I mean, the demon's like, "You could die." It's like, as long as you're alive, I won't. As long as you're alive, I have something worth living for. To which I know Connor got a lot of hate in the previous seasons, but I think he does well here. Now, two other characters actors who I do previously want to mention, the only, aside from like the big players, the only other character who they brought over from Buffy for this particular season was Andrew Wells, the character played by Tom Lenk. He appears in 2 episodes. In one episode where they're fighting against a slayer from an insane asylum, to which, towards the end, he says, "No, we'll take it from here." It's like, no, this is our turf. "Yeah, but she's one of ours. She's a potential slayer, and therefore we'll look after her." And there's another episode where Spike and Angel go over to Italy, specifically to Rome, because they believe Buffy is in trouble. They don't end up meeting Buffy and find out she's actually dating a being who they have history with called the Immortal. But the only person who they do end up encountering is Andrew. And then by the end, when she's still not home, Andrew says, "Look, she's dating the Immortal for now, but you never know, she might change her mind. There's a chance she may come back to one of you two. One of you two may still get the happy ending with the girl." To which, when he opens the door and reveals he's going out for the night with 2 beautiful Italian women, Spike and Angel just, "Can we go home now?" Yeah. And the other thing I want to mention, he doesn't play a major part in the series, but I also wanted to mention actor TJ Tyne. He appears as an employee of Wolfram and Hart, and I mainly mention him because David Boreanaz would later work with TJ Tyne on the series Bones in 2005 and onwards. So it's nice having him here. Now, I can't go through every single episode, but I will mention a couple of my favourites from the final season. Unleashed. This was the episode in which Angel would meet Nina Ash, played by Jenny Mullen, who would turn out to be a werewolf and who he would later develop somewhat of a romantic relationship with. Life at the party. Lorne attempts to throw the kind of annual Wolfram and Hart Halloween party, but in doing so he ends up signing away his sleep, which ends up causing problems. I thought this was pretty fun. Harm's Way focuses mainly on Mercedes McNabb's character of Harmony as she kind of tries to prove herself and do what's best. However, only for her to discover that another one of the employees is trying to kill her to kind of gain more clout within the company. One of my favourite moments is towards the end, Angel and a set of other demons are in a meeting, and they say, no, this can't go on any longer, we must have a sacrifice, to which Harmony then crashes through the window and ends up staking the girl right on the desk. And the demon's just like, works for me! I found that funny. Sole Purpose. This I think is the episode where Angel ends up having his mind kind of taken over by a parasite, basically, that kind of makes it seem as though everyone is praising Spike and he's just kind of pushed to the side, which did provide an interesting look in on his personality. Why We Fight, a flashback episode in which shows an old acquaintance of Angel's coming to meet him at Wolfram and Hart, and it's revealed that they met during World War II on a submarine. Also, Spike is there, and he's shown most of the time to be wearing an outfit of a certain regime that was prevalent in Europe in the 1940s, to which when Angel asks, what, are you with them now? I was like, oh, no, I killed one of them and took his clothes. Oh, that's funny, I like that. Smile Time, the episode in which Angel becomes a puppet. I honestly thought this would break me, but honestly, it works pretty well. I like it. I mean, just everyone reacting to the fact that Angel is a puppet, and even towards the end, a werewolf having breakfast with a puppet, that's somewhat funny, but at the same time it works. The Girl in Question, as I said, the episode where Angel and Spike travel to Rome, and then the final episode, Not Fade Away. Now, one other thing that I haven't mentioned so far in this video that I think I probably should is that partway through the series, Fred ends up being taken over by a creature named, or an entity named Illyria. And I'll admit, Buffy and Angel kind of both set kind of frameworks that would be followed later on in shows like the Arrowverse, like Arrow, The Flash and the like. And to be honest, watching the characters of Fred and Illyria, I do get a sense of like what Danielle Panabaker eventually did with Caitlin Snow and Killer Frost. So I think that kind of works here. Like Fred laid the groundwork for those characters. Now, ultimately, the final episode, as I said, it wasn't intended to be the end, but it ends with everyone kind of doing their jobs, fighting, but then by the end of it, there are only like 4 survivors from the original troop. Angel, Spike, Gunn, who's severely injured, and who Illyria says only has about 10 minutes left, and Illyria herself, as Wesley ends up getting killed. Although, actually, before I get on to that, also, the final episode they bring in Lindsay, and he agrees to help Angel, but then in the final scene that he and Lorne share together, Lorne shoots him. And honestly, I found that funny. Just, like, Lindsay was expecting to have this kind of big go up against Angel someday, that they would get through this apocalypse and then they would be back at each other's throats and maybe he would come out on top. But no. Lindsay goes to possibly the most camp member of Angel's team, and I will say Lorne is still my favourite character out of the entire kind of Angel show, and for me, just him being the final one who kind of shoots Lindsay down, I found that funny. But anyway, Lorne tells Angel that after this fight, he's gone. He's leaving. He does pop up again in the comics, but that's it for him. He's just walking away. So as I said, we've got Angel, Spike, Gunn, and Illyria, and they're now facing the entire legions of the Circle of the Blackthorn, as well as Wolfram and Hart itself. And then they prepare to go into fight, and the credits end. Let's go to work. And that is the final piece of the BuffyVerse. And I will say, Buffy later became my second favourite TV show of all time, behind Doctor Who and all of its related spin-offs. So yeah, Angel can share the space with Buffy the Vampire Slayer as my second favourite TV show of all time. This was a series that I was anxious. I didn't really know if I wanted to check out at first, but 10 years ago now, 2016, I started watching Buffy, and now 2026, I finally finished Angel Season 5, and you know what? I freaking loved both these shows. What are your thoughts on Angel Season 5 or beyond? Or before? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, until next time, see ya.